tools like Grammarly, ChatGPT are really good. But for people who already know like what they're doing, what it's doing, for somebody, for example, let's just say it's like a third grader and they're trying to write like an essay for school. And then they like maybe it's like an argumentative essay and they just learned about like what argumentative essays even mean, and they just the core concepts and like how to write it and like what's the best way to write it, and they just like ask ChatGPT. Then that's not if the teacher doesn't, if it doesn't detect that it's AI, it's not really helping. And I feel like some people might say that it's making us lazier. Hey everybody, and welcome to my podcast, AI with Alex. Today we're with Ray, and we're going to talk about how AI is used in the creative field. But before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So my name is Ray Allen, and I have been running Pepper Shock Media along with my husband. This year we'll be celebrating 21 years, and so we've definitely been through the roller coaster of all of the technologies and new media and now AI that's out in the world for marketers and video producers and content creators like us use on a regular basis. And we're located in Idaho, but we get to work all over the world, and I speak and travel and go to conferences and share knowledge as much as I humanly possibly can, because I love doing it.
Nice. Okay, so let's get started. First, I wanted to talk a little bit about basically kind of like backstory on AI and the creative field. Because when you think of creative field, you think of generative AI like Dolly and Midjourney, maybe even ChatGPT, and there are a lot of tools that are more focused on the person rather than the model. So, I think, do you have any examples of some AI models that, like tools, I guess you could say, that could help the average, like, designer, I guess you could say?
Yeah, I think when I first was introduced to the idea of being able to subscribe to a tool that could help us, I remember, well, before Jasper was actually named Jasper, they had to rename their tool because of, I don't know, Marvel copyright infringement. But that, and then Grammarly in spell checker. I mean, we've had different types of versions of artificial intelligence ingrained in the tools and softwares that we were using before we even knew that it was called AI to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And being able to use these tools has then completely evolved and developed into even more for people to do all kinds of things and ask the tools to do all kinds of things for us that we never really thought that we would be able to do or even dream up of being able to do. And now we can invent things, create things, make things, do videos and images and have it write, essay papers if we wanted to, right? There's just so many tools. And now even further, we're working with a client that they want to do and use social listening tools, but then integrate that data into their database of information that they already use, and tying things together and then being able to analyze and understand what trends are happening and what things to watch out for, and even using models to help future cast into what could potentially be based on historic impact and historic information that has been now given to then now understand what could potentially happen or predictions that could be made, unlike we've ever been able to do before.
Yeah, exactly. If you asked somebody who didn't know was in the technical side with a non-technical person, if you asked them like 2-3 years ago, if there was like, when was the last time they used AI? I guess they would like have to really think about it. Yeah, because AI is, before it was like so integrated into our lives that for a long time we didn't really just think about it. Like for example, autocorrect. You don't really think about how it's using AI to look at a dictionary and try to match your words and see to correct your spelling and grammar. But now with like ChatGPT and all these new AI models, people are using these advanced generative models so much. And yeah, I agree with you. There are so many now more capable things we can do with AI. For example, I think it's called, let me make sure I'm saying this right. It's Canva is what I use a lot, and when it's from graphical design's perspective, and they have added a lot of AI models, like AI generative models, and they actually bought Leonardo AI, which is which is it's an AI image generation company, and they're saying that they're going to integrate it into their software to make it more easier for people to get what they want. So I feel like AI has definitely helped the creative field and overall every field more than it has harmed, as some people might say. But I think we're going to talk a little bit about the harmful side later. For now, I want to talk a little bit more specifically about like what now, ever since the boom of AI, what tools have you been using for AI tools have you been using recently?
Well, and I really am kind of two sides to the coin here. I have an ad agency, and we perform marketing, tasks and tools and strategies and tactics for our customers, our clients, but I also teach at a university, and I teach marketing. And so at first, when it was coming about to where students could have access to being able to utilize the AI tools, and there was kind of an uproar happening whether or not it should be allowed. Is it, is there, things that the students are not learning because they're just relying on AI to generate their answers for them. It's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, why not teach them the tools that the marketing industry and creative content users are creating and making and doing? And on the other side, I still want my students to use HI, human intelligence, to be able to write things out. And utilizing these tools can emphasize or help enhance what you're doing as a human being, right? Using your human intelligence and utilizing these tools to help generate ideas that maybe can spur off of something that you're doing. If you're coming up with a tagline, or if you have an image that you don't want a power pole in because it's wrecking the video or the image that you're using. And we're doing that all the time now. We have 2 certified drone pilots here that work at Peppershock, and one beautiful shot that we wanted of an event center, huge arena. It was for the Sneakerverse Stampede, and nice, wonderful shot, but then there's a power pole right in the shot that we just didn't want there. So what do? You use the tool to say, remove this, and it, it's like magic. It just does it for you. And before, we used to have to mask it out and replace the image, take out the power line and put, something similar to it. And it just now does it all for you. And then also, if you have a shot that you want to extend for a longer period of time, it's going to look at all of the images sources that are there, and it can actually extend the video clip even longer for you, and it'll even have the movement and motion, and it'll kind of study what that clip looks like, and then produce 3 or 4 more frames of video if you need it to go a little bit longer to match up with voice, or if you want to edit on the beat to the music. Right now, you can use tools to like slice and dice the audio up just right, just the way you want it, and giving it instruction on how to do all of those things. It's magical.
Yeah, it truly is. What you're saying kind of reminds me of Adobe's AI tool suite,
Hmm.
where, for example, you can just like circle a specific area in an image, and you could just
Hmm.
type to AI, for example, add a colorful fish, and it will generate pictures of a colorful fish.
Yeah.
And it also has multiple things, like you can extend your image to be bigger, just by expanding it and telling the AI what you want expanded or what you want added. And there's all these other tools that also, for example, it's not exactly AI generating
Hmm.
stuff, but it's so helpful. Um, there's this smart suggestions
Hmm.
and Riverside, the platform I'm currently using.
Hmm.
And when I'm editing, like you can like have an image and it will automatically, based on the context of where you're on the video, it'll tell you, okay, here's some stock footage that will likely be best fitting for the specific context in your video. And I find that very useful, so I don't have to start to find the perfect match. I can automatically just like look on like the right side and figure out which stock image I want and which best fits my videos, and I find that very useful. I personally find the most useful ones the ones that you don't even think about,
Hmm.
the ones that are like so integrated, and you use them so much that you don't even have to think like, okay, this looks like this would be the perfect situation for this tool. It's like automatically kind of like autocorrect. And
Well, like the
yeah.
voice, when we're using our voice for Siri or Alexa or Google Home, I have to be careful because I have Siri on my watch and I have, but yeah, I mean, now people just ask questions and then it'll automatically answer, but that's all generated because of machine learning and understanding your preferences and learning how to adapt based on the questions you ask, how you ask, the voice that you use, right? It can voice detect and everything. So lots of ways that we're using it in smart cars, right? You can tell your
Yeah.
car what you want it to do. Lots of ways that we're integrating and people just don't even think of it right away or that it was a part of it. And yeah, I even go back in the day, and this is going to date me just a little bit, probably before your time. But when we used to use Microsoft Word, there was this little paper clip, and he would kind of come on the screen and offer help when you needed it. And I can't remember, I think it was like paperclip or clippy or something like that. And you just could type in a question and it would answer that question or help guide you on how to use the software. And this was like early on. And so at some point, in some form, we have been using chatbots and ways to be able to answer frequently asked questions or even understand what you're asking and then being able to serve up a customized answer and personalized answer to whatever question it is you're asking. Sometimes it's so good and so slick, we don't even know that we're not even talking to a human.
Yeah.
Yeah, those chatbots are getting pretty good.
Exactly. Speaking of designs and using AI, have you recently seen any, maybe it's a video, like a YouTube video, or maybe it was a blog post, something like that. Have you seen any, thing that, like, they said it was AI, but it was, like, helped in a way? Like, does that make any sense?
So there's like a conversation around deep fake, if that's what you mean, where people don't necessarily know that it's fake, but it is. That is. So I got to speak at a conference, the Leap Technology Conference in Saudi Arabia last year, and there was a whole entire stage dedicated to the deep fake AI tools that are out there and being able to detect whether or not they are using AI, which is kind of scary because if you think about it in, a court of law, if somebody is presenting evidence of a photograph, how will we know if it's been modified or not? And being able to then use tools that will help detect whether something has been modified from its original form or not. And there's now AI tools to help combat AI tools in that regard. And
Yeah.
whether plagiarism is a factor or whether something has been sampled that is so closely related to somebody else's copywritten work. And there's just a lot of components to how AI is being generated, and where do you give credit where credit is due or don't. And I'm noticing now on social media, you can have the opportunity to select and tell that it's been generated by what AI tool, giving credit where credit is due. I'm not quite seeing enough people use the tool knowing that they have been using AI. I think that it's a question of whether or not people have integrity, or having some business ethics in their ethos of who they are, right? And so it'll be fascinating to see how much AI tools are generated and how much people are trying to get away with saying that it's not AI generated versus it being AI generated.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen AI generate content more than I think I should. You'd think, if you're not on the internet much, you'd think, okay, AI is very huge, but there's still a lot of, real, like, human generated content. And yeah, there is, but there's also a lot of AI generated content. I mean, I personally think AI generated content is not exactly a bad thing as long as it brings value to the viewer or consumer. It's actually helping them. So the creator is making this is how do I say is like putting out more content because it's easier for them using AI, and the consumer is therefore getting more value, and they are getting more entertainment from these from these creators. So I don't really see a problem with that. But if you, number one, claim that it's human when it's actually AI, or number two, don't give any value to the consumer, then that's where there's a problem. And I've seen a lot of AI generated content that is a lot of people believe in. And sometimes when I'm watching a video, I would see like 11-minute video, and they would say something that can be summed up in like a minute or two, and it would just be like, it's kind of like ChatGPT writing a script, but then it's not really getting to the point.
Redundancies and not necessarily conversation style that people would use if it's not learned your conversation style yet, right? If it hasn't detected on how you want to communicate or speak or put information out there, and you can always tell ChatGPT what type of voice you want it to be. But sometimes I can tell, especially as a professor, when I'm reading through some of my students' entries, I make them do journal entries and things. I've gotten pretty smart about asking them how they felt about a conversation that we had in class, or what their opinion is on a subject, or that type of thing. Because in those cases, it's really hard for ChatGPT or any of those AI tools to give an opinion, and especially their opinion. But yeah, it's fascinating to continue to see it evolve, and how good it's getting to be undetectable whether or not AI generated something or not. But even now, like, even if I do use something of a tool, whether it's, Jasper or ChatGPT or any of these tools out there, I always have to go back and still use my human intelligence and make it more my voice still. I mean, even as much as I try to get it to do what I want it to do, it's just not always going to understand everything yet. And the same thing when it's generating images too, right? I mean, for a while we were seeing like 6 fingers and, 2 toes instead of, we were just seeing weird things happen. But I mean, it's getting a lot better. And then the new, Midjourney and all of them are coming out with a lot more. Even Canvas is coming, make it a lot more believable, if you will, and relatable as to what kinds of content you're asking it to do. And my students use it because I do the National Student Advertising Competition class. So and it's for an actual national brand. So kind of like where teaching and marketing mix together. And when they were generating some AI advertising copy and also images, I mean, they did state that it was AI generated, so they gave credit where credit was due. But it was they were struggling with it to do exactly what they wanted it to do. And still had to make, human manipulation in order to still make it work, And it's getting better. And there's like all these different tools that you can use to restructure or rephrase the original content that comes from ChatGPT, like Quillbot and Phrase with an F, and all these ones that kind of take what has been written originally and make it better, and then adapt it. And then another one that we are using too, when you talked about Riverside and suggesting images, Adori will actually also suggest relevant website links to go into your show notes and like create those backlinks or linking out to other sources. And you can tell it not to hit, what looks like a competitor site or any of those types of things. And that's getting pretty good, where it'll put in specific links at different points in your timeline when people are watching or listening to it. And just being able to kind of top different tools with different tools. Like, you can take Midjourney and then you can take a video generator and, take it from there and then, animate something that was a still image and then tell it what you want it to do. I mean, it's just getting better and better every day of how it's going to continuously work. And a client of ours the other day, it's for a car wash. We're doing kind of a company history overview, customer testimonial video for a car wash. And it's really kind of hard to do video inside of a car wash while the car wash is running, while you're trying not to get your camera gear all wet, and we can encase it in different things. And, trying to also make sure that we're not slowing down the car wash line so that we're not interrupting their business and being able to wash cars, right? And so the client was asking, well, can we just have AI generate, like a car wash background for us? The trouble is if it's never been done before, then how can AI sample it, right? It's all based on what has already been done to sample what could be then created. So anyway, I was like, well, you never know. We can see what we can tell it to do and see what we'll come up with. So it'll be a fun challenge to see if we can actually have car wash background in a video that's generated from a.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like something. Yeah.
I'll have to report back and let you know what we come up with.
I mean, I don't personally like the idea of using AI to generate car wash because so many things could go wrong.
I know, right?
Yeah, and even if it looks realistic, and what if it's like, for example, what if it's not the right camera movement? What if they've like got a existing car logo and put it on the car wash and then it's not exactly what you want? So,
right.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Or if it's sampling from another car wash that's a competitor, for example.
Yeah.
Now you're working with changing the color scheme, changing the look and feel of everything. Yeah, I mean, there's lots. I mean, like, I think it'll just be better for us to actually shoot the footage that we want in case our camera so we're not getting wet, but we're going through, the car in the car wash with the camera inside the car, So lots of ideas of what we're gonna do, but it's just fun to play around with it and just see what is possible and understand what tools you can use. I will say a word to the wise though. When you sign up for a free trial on all of these tools, remember that you've done so. And if you choose that you want to cancel it, remember to do so. Can't tell you how many tools I've signed up for and forgot that I did it. And I'm like, oh, what is this charge from? Oh yeah, that was the free trial that I used and just tooled around with it and, get charged an annual fee for the use of the tool. Whoopsie.
Yeah, I feel like all these AI startups are charging way too much. It's always monthly subscriptions, and even the free ones are like half decent. Like, what if the best image generators, Midjourney, you have to pay a subscription for that. And I mean, I get that AI is expensive. Like, OpenAI is paying billions of dollars every year to train their AI model alone.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just the amount of free trials I've seen, and like half of the free trials you have to put your credit card in, and I'm like, I don't want to put my credit card inside. Cause like same reason for you, like what if you forget? And then also that company now has your data, so what if there's like a data leak or something like that, and now that person has your credit card information? Yeah,
So word
but
to the
yeah.
wise, a little expert tip here. So if you use a prepaid credit card, it only has a certain amount of limit on it. And once it's gone, it's gone. And it's not necessarily tied to your specific credit card information that's out there. And it's not where somebody can get a hold of it and do some damage with it, because if data breaches, which data breaches are happening all the time, every day now, right? And so much of
Yeah.
the cybersecurity that's happening. So using those types of, that's what I do with my grandma. She's 85. And she is a target because she's, not necessarily digitally savvy. Probably couldn't figure out AI for the life of her. Bless her heart. But occasionally she wants to order something online, and so I just have her do a prepaid credit card so that her name, her social security, any of that kind of stuff is not in the dark web or whatever they want to say, but getting information scrubbed. Because elder abuse and people calling and preying on them, and then them not knowing. I mean, she's even had somebody so far as to say that my sister, it masked the phone number looking like it was my sister calling my grandma saying that she needed to get bailed out of jail, that she was in trouble, and that she needed my grandma to send her $5,000 right away to wire her the money. And immediately, like, that just threw up red flags right away. Like, so I call my sister and she's like, what do you need? I'm at work. What do you need? Like, well, somebody is impersonating you and calling grandma, telling her that they need to wire transfer $5,000 in your name, and they masked her phone number, right? So, I mean, there's just so much data information and things out there. So yeah, a word to the wise, if you do want to sign up for any of these free trials or do any of these types of things, get a prepaid credit card and don't put your information out there if you can help it. And I always use a different email address when people want me to subscribe to stuff. I learned this early on because my normal email account was getting inundated with so many just people like subscribing me without my permission to things, and just getting massive amount of emails. So I have a secondary email that I use to subscribe to stuff that is kind of, burner account that I use for, signing up for all of these free software tools and all that kind of stuff. And that way it's separated from the important emails that I want to see versus all of the signups and everything too. So hopefully that was some value for people out there looking to play around with these tools. You never know when somebody's going to breach that data and get your information out there. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I also use there's this website called Temp Mail. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. And it's basically this website where you can like create temporary emails, and the emails go away. I delete it after 15 minutes. So every time I sign up for a new AI tool or a service in general, I'll use a temp email just so that I don't get bloated with spammy emails and overall subscription emails that I didn't exactly opt in for.
Right.
So yeah, exactly. They'll always check mark the subscribe to hear our weekly like promotional content, like, and I'll completely skip that over because I think just a terms of service, privacy policy kind of thing. And then now every single day I just get a notification like saying, hey, 20% off deal, and I'm like, I stopped using that a week ago.
Right. Yeah, it seems like unsubscribe. Right now I'm getting so many political from both parties on my phone. I don't know how they got my cell phone number, but they are inundating me it seems like I'm getting like 12 an hour now. It's just ridiculous. Wow. And they're like, both sides. And I try to stay apolitical because we have, clients on both sides of, all political arenas, but it's too much. And then they have a new phone number every single time. So every time you hit stop or end or report a spam, just seems like they find a new way to get to you,
Yeah, I think they're just like going through a list of phone numbers on like a phone book or something.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And they're always asking for $1 for donation.
Yeah, right? I know. Yeah. And you got to watch out for that too, because sometimes there's spam and fraud, fraudulent people asking for donations for a nonprofit that doesn't even exist. So I always check just to make sure that whoever, whatever it is, that they're, registered as a business, for example, or a nonprofit, a 501c3 or something of that nature, just to verify and check and make sure that you're not putting information out there that you otherwise shouldn't, or, could get in trouble by doing, not in trouble, but just getting inundated because of it,
Yeah, so speaking of AI, let's talk about AI in writing. I've used a lot of tools when it comes to generating text using AI, like ChatGPT. Obviously, another one that comes to mind is also Claude Sonnet 3.5 from Anthropic. That was a very good model. Gemini, I feel like Google's kind of overhyping it. Just the other day, I was watching some live TV. I don't know about like the top 10 football players, and then you had a 33% chance of that ad being a Google Gemini ad. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that's a lot of ads about Gemini. Yeah, exactly. I get it all the time. Mainly, I use ChatGPT, and what also comes to mind is Grammarly. I haven't used it since, because I normally use it for essays, and I haven't been writing those for a while. But yeah, when I'm typing something, maybe for school, I'll just use Grammarly, not to obviously rewrite my entire essay, but just to correct my grammar. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh no, I definitely subscribe for the pro version for all of my staff here at Pepper Shop, just because proofing errors, they happen. People are human, so maybe if we can rely on, AI to help us in some capacity to benefit us, catching things that, could otherwise be detrimental. And I remember if only we would have had this tool a few years ago when print pieces were a lot more common than maybe emails or digital. We created a flyer for a catering company, and one of the most common misspelled words or mistyped words is you versus your. So we basically copied and pasted a message from our client and pasted it into the document. It was a flyer that we were going to send out in the mail, snail mail, like United States Postal Service. And it said, "Let us take care of you, barbecue." Like a catering company. "Let us take care of you, barbecue," not your. It went all the way through the process. There were 1,700 of them printed, ready to go. And when I went to go drop off them to get mailed, I noticed it. And oh my gosh, had we had Grammarly then, it would have saved us all time and energy and money and effort, because people will skip over it. They will inadvertently put the R in your as they're reading it, and they'll fill in the blanks. So everybody proofed it, everybody saw it, the client, okayed it, they saw it. And as we were going to send them out, the very, very last possible moment, I caught it right at the very, very last minute. As I was handing them over, and I saw it, and I just, could you imagine if we had Grammarly then?
Exactly.
Common things that, grammar errors. And, it's really interesting, because I do think that there are, like you said, benefits and drawbacks, because I think that people rely on spell check and things like Grammarly so much more, that when you're writing up on a whiteboard and people are staring down at you, it's hard, because sometimes now you're on the spot. You don't have access to tools right away, or maybe unless you have your phone in your hand while you're trying to write on a whiteboard. That, I will say, is a little nerve-wracking when you're teaching in a school setting and you're in front of a whole bunch of students and you're trying to be, but we work through it. Now I just get used to it. It's okay. Hey, who can tell me how to spell whatever word it is that's a difficult word to spell?
Yeah,
But we get
exactly.
lazy. We get lazy because now we have all these tools at our advantage we otherwise didn't have before, right? So it's a little bit, you have to be careful because even though we have Grammarly, sometimes the words are spelled differently even though they sound the same, or there's lots of different common mistakes that people can make that Grammarly and any tool won't always pick up on. So
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I think tools like Grammarly, ChatGPT are really good, but for people who already know like what they're doing, what it's doing, for somebody, for example, let's just say it's like a third grader and they're trying to write like an essay for school. And then they like maybe it's like an argumentative essay and they just learned about like what argumentative essays even mean and they just and they don't have like the core concepts and like how to write it and like what's the best way to write it. And they just like ask ChatGPT, then that's not even if the teacher doesn't detect that it's AI, it's not really helping. And I feel like AI, some people might say that it's making us lazier. Yeah, in some cases I would believe that, and some other cases I'd say it's making us more efficient. But it really just depends on if you know the fundamental concepts. Let's just say you were like designing something and maybe you're a photographer and graphic designer, and instead of taking the pictures, instead of like learning how to get like good lighting, good camera settings, getting the right equipment, you just use stock footages like or AI to generate the images, and maybe they turn out good, maybe they don't, but feel like if you're using it, at the very least learn how it works, because if you do, then it's helping you, right? Instead of spending hours trying to get the perfect, like sometimes the sun might be too bright, sometimes there is no sun at all, you have to wait till the next day, and AI maybe even like online too. But if you are maybe like for example, I code, and when I'm coding sometimes I ask ChatGPT to straight up add a feature altogether. And sometimes I guess I could say it's making me lazier because I just learned like
or
last
maybe
week.
more efficient, right? Because now you don't have to spend the time doing that feature and coding it all if it'll do it for you. Yeah, and now you can move on to doing other bigger, better, more, ideation things that take human intelligence to do.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, last week I just learned what a synchronizing function does, and for the past year I've been asking ChatGPT and it generated that code, and I had no idea what it did. So let's just say if there's a big error and I mess something up using my human intelligence, then I would have no choice but to ask ChatGPT for the code. And sometimes I get kind of worried, like am my skills worse now because of ChatGPT? Yeah, because I like depend on it so much, like so there's like, I'd say there's two sides to depending on it. Depending like good and then depending bad. Depending good is like if it's making you more efficient, like Grammarly, for example. But the depending bad is for, like, let's just say you have like, you don't even know how to code, you don't even know like what a function or a loop is, and then generating code for AI. So you need to depend on it. Let's just say OpenAI like crashes one day and ChatGPT is no longer available. You're not going to be able to continue coding at all.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like it's very important for someone who's at least using an AI tool to not completely automate themselves, unless they know what they're doing.
Well, and being able to have the critical thinking and problem solving skills is really important, and not just leaning on the tool to do it for you or solve problems for you, because like you said, if you don't have access to it and you haven't developed those capabilities of being able to analyze and process and synthesize information to then be able to make a decision on how you're going to solve a problem, you're in a world of hurt. You really could be, depending on, and especially if it was like a life-saving measure or who knows what. But being able to problem solve is definitely something that humans need.
Yeah, definitely.
There's other ways that ChatGPT or even other AI tools are being used, and that's in the music composition world, and how musicians can now use it and create lyrics or help AI or have AI help with lyrics and being able to come up with the soundtracks or the beats that they're going to lay, and just all the different tools. And when we're scoring music for videos that we do, being able to truncate it or manipulate it in a way where it's going to hit to the edit to the beat of the music. Those are some things that kind of we were talking about earlier, but just ways that there's, lots of people are either embracing it or they're resisting, right? And I think in this case, resistance is going to be futile. They have to embrace it. And, if you can't beat them, join them, right? And I think that's the saying. I'm not quite sure who to attribute that saying to, but if you don't know, or if you don't stay ahead, and if you can't keep up with new technology and new ways of doing things, you're going to be obsolete. Just like the old VHS tapes that no one has anymore.
Yeah, exactly. There's this one AI music generator, and I've used it a lot. It's called Suno AI. It's kind of one of those AI tools that it kind of has like tokens, but when you use them all up, you have to start paying, and I don't really have the money for that. So yeah, basically, see how you can use this in like maybe making like an information video, and your video is kind of bland, you want to add some music to that. But I mean, I personally just like to follow these AI tutorials that tell you how to make your own music video, even though I'll never use it. It's so cool to do.
And sound effects too, right? If you've got, and you're telling it, we want kind of a creepy, eerie, scary sound that's gonna, have a a scary moment, and then leading up to it and building up the music until it gets to a point, and telling it all these things and being able to compose it that way. And you can use different genres. You can tell it if you want it to be classic or pop or rock or jazz or however, or even a mix of some of those things. And although that would be interesting to see what, jazz and pop and rock all come like classical, that could be interesting. And then just putting it together to, layer it with different tools. Like if you do have sound effects and you want to tell it, hey, I want this to sound like a door is creaking open, or, I want, footsteps on the road, or, whatever, you can have it generate those things. And it's getting pretty good about how you can compose it all and score music and different things. And how you can tell it, okay, we want the audio to be louder and softer when it's spoken or when people are speaking. And yeah, it's just really, it's a fascinating tool to put them all together, right? You can use it for writing the script. You can use it for the images that you're putting on the video. You can use it for the sound. I mean, and then social media too, right? You can use it to slice and dice and make audiograms and get quotable moments and put it all out there. And now we can even have social media even schedule at the most opportune times for things to get released, where it does some machine learning and understands, okay, the audience engages more at this time of day on, this part of the week, and we're going to post these kinds of messages at this time because that's when you're going to get the most traction from your audience. I mean, it's just doing the audience listening and understanding, and using these tools can really enhance what we're doing and make it better, ideally.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the appeal of using AI to generate music for basically all kinds of stuff. For example, I was making this one YouTube video, and there's a very specific soundtrack I wanted to add. I wanted to sound kind of techy, but at the same time kind of lo-fi, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of that kind of specific music you can't really find online. So
Right.
I used a different AI tool. It wasn't Suno, but I'm not really sure what it's called. It's
There's one that's
basically
called,
yeah.
I think it's called, so it's AIVA, Avia, or Ava. I don't know. All these names that they come up with, right? Like phrase with an
Yeah.
F instead of PA, or, I mean, everyone's got their names. And anyway, but so AIVA is another tool that, you can use to do music composition with. And I'm sure there's lots of others out there too. I mean, it seems like every day there's something new.
Yeah, every day there's always something new.
That one's artificial
Yeah.
intelligence virtual artist. So AIVA is one. That's another tool. That might be another one. Amper Music is another one where Amper Music will, it'll just help with composition. I think. Well, that one I'm not sure if it's around anymore. Actually, I think that one might be. I just looked at. It might be. A lot of these too. They start and stop and either get bought out or they can't make it a go because they're. It does take money to develop these,
Yeah.
right? And
Takes a lot of money.
yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, the number
Anyway.
one reason why I think it's taking so much money is because of like training. You're gonna get a lot of data, and then to train the model, you need a bunch of servers and
Yeah.
CPU, GPU. Yeah, exactly. It takes
Yeah.
so much, and in some cases, it takes billions of dollars. That's
Yeah.
why AI is very expensive, and some people are even saying it's not that sustainable in terms of economic. But in the meantime, we can enjoy our AI generated music.
That's right. Well, we have the chance, huh?
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Unless we can find a way to make AI more efficient and cost effective, then yeah. Exactly.
Well, when AI starts to build AI without us, where they can create, robots can create the servers and robots can take over, then we're in trouble. But
Yeah. But in the meantime, let's enjoy our AI generated music. Yeah.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, speaking of AI and ethics, let's want to talk a little bit more about the negative side
Yeah.
using AI to generate content or maybe help alongside of you.
Well, I
Yeah.
can tell you, so one of the other presenters at this conference I was mentioning earlier at the Leap Technology Conference is Dr. Alessandra, and she's the head of AI generated images at, what's the biggest, I just lost the name of it, where you can get stock photos. I'm thinking of it. Hang on. Anyway, her panel discussion and her discussion in leading is being able to give attribution to artists who create images, so stock imagery, right? And be able to, even if it's partial, have where then people can be paid for their copywritten or stock images that they submit. And there's been a lot of conversation, from the legal perspective, from guidelines and ethics in AI, and just conversations that are continuously happening. And there's really not a lot of case studies or legal courses or cases to really base anything off of, because it's not been widely around yet. So it'll be interesting to see when something goes down where is there copyright infringement, or is there where somebody is doing something with no malintent, but then AI is generating something that could be construed as slander or libel, right? I mean, and so where does freedom of speech come in for AI tools when it's machine generated, right? Does AI
Yeah.
get the same laws that humans do as far as being able to be protected because of freedom of speech? Who knows, right? I mean, there's all kinds of conversations surrounding how to give attribution and, or give credit where credit is due, and being able to, because everything, was sampled from somewhere, right? Somehow it had to learn from something, whether it's the internet or not. And there's always the disclaimers to say that this information is not accurate. You should fact check. Don't necessarily rely on the information that is provided, because who knows, maybe it was erroneous information to begin with. So I think that if people, kind of always gloss over those terms and conditions or those, warnings or those types of things. But as people use it more and more, I anticipate seeing more cases come up where people are questioning whether or not something has been an infringement, or, with plagiarism, right? In copying something that somebody else wrote without attribution, right? That's plagiarism. There is definitely an ethics side of it, and if you can be an ethical person and give credit where credit is due, then you may be just fine. But if you're trying to get away with something that may not be ethical, or you're trying to elude or create deep fake images for a court case, that's not right. It's perjurism when you perjure yourself, like in the court of law, right? Where you lie or do something that you're not. I don't know. There's lots of different things that can be considered topics in discussion, and trying to educate to where people recognize that they should be giving credit where credit is due, even if it is just to the fact that you surfaced or pulled information, or pulled images, or a portion of your image is generated from AI, that's...
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think about almost a month ago, there's this article written by Proof News, and it was basically exposing how all these big tech companies like Apple, NVIDIA, Google, all these companies, they're actually scraping YouTubers' transcripts from videos, thousands of transcripts, and using them for their AI models for data. And a lot of YouTubers were very unhappy about that.
Yeah.
Especially famous ones like MKBHD. They actually Proof News, they had this little thing where you can search up a video or a channel and see if it got scraped or not. And and I feel like the worst part is a very small creator, when they only have like 1,000 subscribers, and they're not getting monetized. So what they're doing is for pure passion, and just to get that scraped by a company without even crediting. Like OpenAI, when you ask ChatGPT a question, they don't tell you like where to get the sources from unless they specifically research it. But
Wow.
I mean, it's kind of like a gray area.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like companies mainly are doing all these kinds of things. And Apple, for example, they said that they stepped back. They said that they weren't being scraped. They weren't doing that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But you could say like even Google, the one who owns YouTube, is scraping their own users' content, and that's kind of scary to think about it.
Right.
And definitely sad to see that something that can take weeks, months, some cases even years for a YouTuber to make, and it's just being scraped by companies without their permission or without any credits, and it's definitely sad to see that.
Yeah. It is sad to see. So it's Dr. Alessandra Sala with Shutterstock. I couldn't believe, all I wanted to say is Snapchat, but I'm like, that's not right. Snapchat's not right. I meant Shutterstock when I was talking about earlier. But yeah, oh man, there's so much that could potentially go wrong, right? And the negative aspects that could potentially be wrong, and not giving that attribution to those people that created something and got scrubbed. And oh man, it just breaks my heart, because you're right. Spending a whole year on doing something and then just having it taken away from you like that just so easily is not, it's a detriment, right? Anyway, yeah, I hope that people use it ethically and you know, having, you know, utilizing some practical solutions by giving that attribution where it's needed, and you know, and hoping there's some AI governance that continues to evolve, so that way people do have some guidelines or maybe some supervisory, you know, some regulations, some things like that, where you know, there might be some things that people could implement just to make sure that they're legally and ethically doing the right thing, and having some maybe standards that could be incorporated, where, you know, maybe there's some AI watermarking, just like when you know, people use our video, it's, you know, photo courtesy of Peppershock Media, right? We put that as a watermark on top of the video, and maybe, you know, there's things that could happen with kind of that watermarking idea, or deep fake detection, where people are trying to get away with things that they shouldn't be because they, you know, oh look, there's proof that this person was at this location at this time, and, you know, there's their alibi because there's a photo. Well, not so much anymore. There really could be, you know, some things that could happen with that deep fake, you know, going undetected in that kind of thing. So I'm sure that there's obviously there's always lots of work on this, and I'm sure lawyers have it kind of, they're you know, honing in on this, on how, you know, ethical practices and when people are unethical, what that turns out to be, and how that can, you know, damage and set us all back, right? Because that's, you know, it's the one thing to say that it's billions of dollars to sustain it, but there might also be other factors at key here to where it's not sustainable simply because it's sampling too many things that are copywritten, and it could be shut down that way too, right? And doing things that are unethical and not following sort of like the guidelines or some sort of authority or some sort of detection that people are putting into place, or standards, I should say. I don't know, whatever they want to call it, but having something where there's, you know, some sort of oversight on what people are doing, not to the degree of like where it's invasive, but it's you know, making sure that there's best practices being followed, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for being on my podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex. I really appreciate it. This is a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm Alex, this is Ray, and do you have any last words you want to say before we end the podcast?
Well, if you don't mind, I'll maybe just plug my podcast, if you would be okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, cool. So I also have a podcast. It's called the Marketing Expedition Community. So the Marketing Expedition podcast, powered by Peppershock Media, hosted by me. So Alex, we'll have to have you on my show too. Thank you.